and East Copperbelt Province brings to you The Lens, a program designed to bring insightful information on economics, mining, education, health, tourism, agriculture, environmental issues, sports, entertainment, current affairs, and many issues affecting the well-being of society.
Pleasant viewing, our dear viewers. Welcome to The Lens from the Ndola Studios. I'm your host, Penelope Chansa. Now, on The Lens today, we are looking at the free education policy. We are looking at the impact that this policy has had on our country. And to help me unpack that, I have with me in the studio two lecturers from the National Institute of Public Administration, NIPA. And this is no other than seated on my immediate right, Dr. Clement Kasenge. Dr. Kasenge, welcome to The Lens.
Thanks very much.
It's good to have you on our program. How is NIPA?
We are delivering.
Wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful. Next to Dr. Kasenge, we have Mr. Melvin Meleki, who is also a lecturer at NIPA. Mr. Meleki, welcome to The Lens.
Thank you, Penelope. It's a pleasure having me on the program.
Wonderful. I'll start with you, Mr. Meleki. We are looking at the impact of the free education policy. And as we unpack this, it's a wide subject. As we unpack this wide subject, I want us to look at the historical background of free education policy. From 1964, when it was introduced, 1990, it was abolished, and eventually reintroduced in 2021. Would you kindly give us that background?
Thank you so much, Penelope. To begin with, let me just a little bit take you back to the pre-independence before I come to the post-independence in terms of looking at the free education policy. Now, when you talk of the pre-independence, you find that the African education was largely limited. So it was very much controlled by the missionaries. So you find that there were issues of, racial segregation, and also there was discrimination and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the post-independence, at the time now when Zambia became a sovereign state, the new government then led by Dr. Kenneth Kaunda with the United National Independence Party, UNIP, at the government then, you find that Dr. Kenneth Kaunda did prioritize education for Zambians. He wanted to see that Zambians had an opportunity to get back to school. And so you find that from grade 1 up to grade 7, there was free education for Zambia. Now, it came to 1980 to 1980 to 1990, somewhere there, you find that there are a lot of, again, some challenges that were observed in the free education policy that Kenneth Kaunda had embarked on. And so that led again to the free education policy to be abolished. But came 2002, as you rightly put it in your question, Pelo, you find that the free education policy was revamped again by the Zambian government. Now, this time around, we are talking about the Mwanawasa government in 2002. We find that in March, to be specific, there was the resumption of the free education policy, and we saw that from grade 1 to 7, the policy given an opportunity where children were now going to attend school without paying anything. So that was a great opportunity for many households because there was no payment of user fees, you're talking of examination fees and so on and so forth. But come to 2022, we are seeing now that the New Dawn government now came in with a full-fledged in terms of trying to ensure that this free education policy was in place. And so the New Dawn government, the United National UPND government, ensured that the free education policy started with grade 1 through to grade 12. There is a free education policy grade 1 up to grade 12, because I did highlight the fact that in the olden times, you find that 2002, the Mwanawasa government just gave an opportunity from grade 1 to 7. But if you look at the UPND government, it has now implemented this free education policy from grade 1 up to 12. In fact, it is not actually ending to grade 12, but because we are talking of also government bursaries, meaning it is extending to the tertiary education, where now learners are able to access free education that has been implemented by the government. So in summary, Penop, I'll say that that is how the free education policy has evolved in Zambia.
Doc, I'll come to you.
Yes.
There's just this notion that we have a lot of social problems, and I think it's not just a notion, it's true. It has some element of truth in it. We just have a lot of social problems. Now, when you look at the reintroduction of free education policy, how will it help to solve some of these social problems?
Yes, if you look at policy, what is the main purpose of a policy? The main purpose of a policy is to solve problems. The government has come up with policies that it uses to solve problems, because policy is about policy, it's about problem solving. So meaning that in our society today, we have a lot of problems that citizens are facing. So meaning that at the end of it all, the policy being put in place by government, in particular, we are talking about, of course, we have many policies in different ministries. You know, the government is divided up into ministries now. In this context, we are looking at the Ministry of Education. The policy, free education policy is about Ministry of Education, isn't it? Of course, it extends out to other ministries. So, but what I'm trying to look at is that we are looking at different problems in society. So one of the problems that was identified was some of the children were not going to school because fees could not allow them to go, payment of school fees could not allow them to go into school. They stayed away, and that was a very big problem. So meaning that that problem multiplied. Just from one problem of a parent failing to pay school fees, that problem actually created other problems like the junkies and so on, creation of the junkies, criminals, as Mr. Melek had put it earlier on. So what I'm trying to say is that policy is about problem solving. So the government decided to solve this problem by introducing free education. So free education came in as a result of this identified problem. You know, in the country, and you know, the policy could be in place today, making parents pay. It's policy that is cost sharing, isn't it? Which was introduced earlier on. You talked about it. And now, the government, after evaluation, you know, these policies are evaluated so that we create a policy change, meaning that at the end of it all, the government felt certain policy elements were not implemented. Penelope, believe me or not, if you look at the policy document is formulated by government, of course, with other stakeholders participating, and then it's approved by National Assembly and so on. But now, with the time, through evaluation, you discover that certain policy items in the policy document have not been implemented. So the UPND government looked at this policy document and looked at how people are suffering, problems that have emanated from fee paying, the fees being paid by poor parents. You know, free education is not meant for rich people. It's meant for poor people. It's meant for the vulnerable population. So meaning that when it realized that a lot of children had not gone back to school, stayed home, So the government announced that it would implement. It was, we are talking of education for all. It has always been there in the policy document. But of course, at some point, fees were reduced. But this government felt, even if the fees had been reduced, there are the vulnerable populations who do not still afford. So the government said, oh, let's just remove the fees and continue with helping the vulnerable groups. It's education for all, meaning that free education is actually responding to education for all. Now, here we are. So meaning that this problem, just the time these children started going back after that announcement, and you could even see the influx of children going back. You could even see how happy parents were when they started going. And the government was very happy and very excited, actually, that just that alone, it was an indicator that the children who are back into school now, poor children, and you look at problems, as I've indicated. Here we are talking about problems. So one of the identified problems, which was actually, which came into being, was the payment of free education by vulnerable groups who failed and stayed home. Now today, we are saying that problem has been solved. You can't solve all the problems, but take it that that problem has been solved, at least unless the parents don't want to send the children to school. That's what I can say.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll still get back to you. Some studies have shown that household consumption among lower income households has actually increased as a result of free education. How true is this information? Yeah,
it's very true. If you look at the budgeting processes in homes, that time the parents were budgeting for school fees as well. And now that portion of the budget is no longer there. And at the end of it all, we are talking of the parents at least getting relieved. What was used on imagine 200 kwacha in urban areas and 150 kwacha in rural areas. That was something big. You may look at 200 Penlop, and I may look at 200 as nothing, because the level at which we are may look at 200 as something, but there are certain people who can't even afford to pay 20 kwacha. And by reducing the fees to 200 was not solving a problem. Now, in the context of your question, I would say yes, the parents have been relieved. It may not be 100%, but believe me or not, the 200 kwacha, the 150 kwacha, a parent can buy relish from 200 kwacha. It's a lot of money, even solving other problems and so on. So now, meaning that at the end of it all, we are talking of parents being relieved. So the government has helped these parents to get relieved so that that money is channeled to helping themselves in terms of upkeep. Interesting
views there. Mr. Meleki, I'll come to you. I personally believe if there has to be productivity in any situation in any country, we have to have a cadre of disciplined people. So I want to find out this free education policy, how will it rescue children from the streets, as well as how will it help in shaping a disciplined and productive group of people?
Yes, thank you so much. If you look at the children that has those that have gone back to school because of this policy that has been undertaken by the government, now that will rescue a lot of children who are on the street, because they will have that chance, instead of, like Dr. Kasenge said, becoming maybe a breeding ground for criminals. Now they will have that opportunity to get back to the school, learn skills, and so on and so forth. So I would, in a nutshell, say that it is giving an opportunity not only for the children themselves, but also for the parents, because they'll be able to spare a coin, a lot of substantial amount of money, which may be, taken to other needs areas for them. So it will reduce the breeding ground for the criminals in the communities, because imagine the young boys and girls loitering around the street, because as we speak now, they have been curtailed. They are no longer on the street. They have been taken back to the schools. So it is actually reducing on the children, remaining on the street by having an opportunity to be in schools and be able to get the skills that they need to have as they grow.
I'm still with you, Mr. Meleki.
Yes.
Here's a family, by our standards, a poor family. How will this policy help in such a situation?
Yes, like I said, Penelope, a poor family, like you have put it, you find that because they were unable to send their children to school, and so the children, they were on the street. Now that the government has come up with this good policy, the free education policy, now you find that maybe the mother, the parents, they are just unemployed. They take, for example, they are just marketeers. They are just selling vegetables on the market, on the streets. You find that they'll be able to save that particular coin. And not only that, that money, they will use it in some other avenues, because the children will be able to enjoy the free education policy that the government is undertaking. And so that will be able to not only, protect the children being on the street, but the parents themselves, they will be able to save that substantial amount of money and be able to divert that money to other needs that they may have.
Well, our dear viewers, if you are just joining us on the lens from our Ndola studio, we are looking at the impact of free education policy in our country. And to help me discuss that, I have in the studio two lecturers from the National Institute of Public Administration. Mr. Meleki, I'll come to you. The free education program abolishes most educational fees, including things like tuition fees, examination fees, and also fees related to the parent-teacher associations. How would you describe this relief for poor families or poor households?
Yes, just to echo to what Dr. Kasenge has said, he's talking of parents, they were initially, before this policy was implemented, it was quite very difficult for them to even find a coin. Even when they found they had that coin, it was very difficult, because they had to look at where, to pay the fees. But then this policy has come because of government stance. Okay, so to respond to your question, you find that it is actually helping out, because the parents, the parents now, we are talking of them having, relieved a little bit. Okay, it's not absolute that they may not have to spend.
Wonderful, wonderful. Doc, I'll come to you. In 2023, our Minister of Education, Dr. Siakalima, noted that free education has stopped breeding criminals. Breeding criminals. How is it helping to stop breeding criminals?
Yeah, an idle mind. Yeah, creates a lot of problems. They had nothing to do, and we've now heard of junkies. And you can see that, and if you look at the girl child, the girl child has gone on to the street, and you know what that happened.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, it's a social problem. So now, meaning that at the end of the day, we are saying the coming in of free education and the parents getting involved. You know, at some point, one of the news items, one parent saying, Lesa Mukulu, God is there. The 6 children that were home have gone back. Mwandi ni Lesa Mukulu.
Wonderful.
Amen to this government. You know, she was expressing herself, and that was a genuine expression. So I learned something from there, meaning that, you know, I think those, I'm just quoting the actual words, meaning my 2 children were useless, and they had even gone into smoking drug and so on. But at the time they went back to school, there has been a change in behavior, meaning that the criminals, we are not saying it's 100%, but at least that has been cut off a bit. And those whom we were deemed to have been criminals, some of them have gone back to school and they are being rehabilitated. If you look at what, I can give you an example of the guidance teachers are busy working with those children who have gone back to school. So the government has put in place guidance teachers, meaning that to take care of these children who were at one time criminals. So looking at keeping the children in school actually is something that we should praise the government for. It hasn't been easy. It may not be 100%, but the government has tried as much as possible to reach even 80. We don't, even a child who scores 6 points does not score 100% in every other subject, but it may be 75, 76, 80, and so on. Even this government, in terms of provision of free education, let's praise it. At least it has tried as much as possible to bring back to school a criminal. That's what I can say.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mr. Melik, there are always 2 sides to a coin. There are always 2 sides to a coin. Despite the huge benefits of this policy, the free education policy, it also has brought in the problems of teacher to pupil ratio. There is another problem of the classroom, classroom space, as well as the desks. We could be in a situation where our children would end up sitting on the floor. How can these issues, these problems, the other side of the coin be addressed to ensure that this policy is utilized to its fullest form?
Yes, and first thing first, there is an influx of children getting back to school, just like the free education policy has led to that. There are a lot of enrollment. Now, over-enrollment has led to, like you have said, a lot of challenges in the implementation of the free education policy. You have talked of maybe shortage of infrastructure. We're talking of classrooms. We are also talking of maybe desk. But in order to address such a challenge that is being encountered by the free education policy, I think the government should endeavor to ensure that they come up with a lot of infrastructure development, as we're able to see sometimes. We're seeing in some rural sectors, even in urban centers, I think we are able to see that the government is trying to cushion on the issue of the infrastructure side. And on the case of desk, shortage of desk, Penelope, you agree with me that at some point, I think the pupils were they had lack of desks. So the government actually should double the effort in ensuring that many schools in Zambia are provided with a lot of desks so that they can cushion on this challenge. We are talking of a lot of influx over enrollment in schools. The government should also look at the issue to do with recruitment of teachers. This should be on their fingertips. The government should ensure that the recruitment of teachers so that the teacher-pupil ratio is curtailed. So the government should endeavor to recruit more teachers, like the government did in 2022. I think if my record serves me right, over 30,496 teachers were recruited. So that cushioned the teacher-pupil ratio. And the government should carry on with the same pace, because that will, in the long run, be addressing the issue at hand. We are talking of the challenges, the impact of the free education policy. Because yes, there is a coin. The other side of the coin, it's quite very beneficial. But like we said, it's not absolutely quite beneficial because of the challenges that are there. Very beneficial, but it has a lot of challenges. So to address those challenges, that's what I can say. Recruitment must be annually done. Let the government do this annually, and maybe exceeding like they did in 2022, because that was a huge number. Okay, I think it has never been seen ever in Zambia where probably 30,000 recruitment of teachers. That really helped. So that's what I can say. And then the other issue is to continue with the program of giving out to the small medium enterprises. Let them come up, give them a lot of business. Let them come up with those desks, let them be taken to the schools. And then you find that that will be cushioning on the challenges of this that are observed in schools.
Huge number, 30,000 teachers employed. You've talked about that. Now, when we look at these plans and these initiatives by government of employing about 30,000 teachers, and also government planning to construct about 120 secondary schools throughout the country, how does this move in line with the free education policy?
Actually, to be supplementing on the free education policy panel, because now it will caution. If you talk of the government coming, like it is, planning to construct over 120 schools in Zambia, that itself will give the challenge that you have just talked about. We are talking about the infrastructure in terms of coming up with a lot of schools, classrooms, so that the pupils that are coming from the streets, those who are junkies now getting back to school, that will be addressed. And not only that, I think I mentioned of government also, let it be on their mind, let it be on their program where they enroll, let it be continuously enrollment, so that the teacher, we're trying to bridge the gap, the teacher-pupil ratio. You must have, on the other side, infrastructure development, continuous. And then you talk of the recruitment. Also, let it be an ongoing program so that you bridge the gap. And once that is done, then you find that we'll have a quite stable economy, because I mentioned to say that a very educated economy is a stable economy.
Interesting. Doc, I'll come to you. What is the best way to support this policy? How best can we support this policy for it to become more effective and to save our children?
So at every institution like this one here, you have partners. The people are working at provincial level, and district, the people are working at district. So if this has to succeed, the implication of that is that everyone should be involved. The government itself has introduced free education. And it has said, please, people out there is a policy, this policy item in place, act upon it. And they have acted, teachers have implemented and so on, and the evaluation is going on. You see how best it's going. So now, if it has to succeed, parents must encourage these children to get back to school. And the teachers should also encourage the retention of these children in schools. I've indicated to you, Penbrook, that if you look at the school setting, there's a guidance teacher who looks at psychosocial problems that these pupils are facing who have gone back. It's not an easy thing to settle down after one has been. So the guidance teachers actually are on the ground, believe me or not, because every other school has a guidance teacher. Now, the teachers must be involved, ensuring that there is retention of pupils. So meaning that let's support this, everyone on board. A stakeholder is someone who has an interest in trade. Let's forget about those who are rich. They may be talking against this, but let's look at the purpose of trade education is to serve the vulnerable population. So let's support the initiative the government will come up with, and everyone on board who has a stake, parents have a stake, pupils have a stake, the head teachers, the education board secretaries, the POs, the PS's office, the minister, all these have given us a way of ensuring that we are all involved. It's a system. If we run away from, if we want to break the system, then the stakeholders who have made mistakes. So let's support this policy. Everyone should come on board.
Interesting and wonderful. Mr. Meleki, why is free education important to the country's economic development agenda?
Interesting question, Penro. Why is free education important? It's quite very significant because we have alluded to a lot of factors here, a lot of issues that we have talked about. We have talked about, children who were potential junkies, who were on the street, but then they have been given this opportunity to get back to school. So meaning that it is quite very significant because it gives another opportunity for those parents who were not able to pay for their children so that they can acquire that education. So it is actually helping out to the poor families, those vulnerable in society. They are able now to take their children to school. So in a nutshell, I would say that free education has actually turned around what the parents, were facing initially, because now they have this chance of at least relaxing, spending that little that they may have to other avenues, because now the issue to pay is not there unless that child is not able to get back to school. But even when that child is not able to get back to school, you realize that those who are not ready to get back to school, those who have just the skill, they are still able to be given that skill because they are hands-on, skills that are still have been, given to the school-going children. I earlier mentioned of the bursaries. We are talking of these schools that are trade schools, for instance. Someone would have dropped out at grade 9, grade 7, and so on and so forth. But then, is that person just left out? No, because of this free education policy, that person is also catered for because he is able to receive some sort of education, hands-on skills. Their institution, we are talking of Northern Technical College here in Ndola. We are talking of the Technical Vocation Teachers College in Luanshya. So those tertiary institutions are also helping out because through bursaries, children are able to receive. So it's quite very significant because it is helping the parents who were unable to pay for the children. So they're able to pay for the children.
Would we safely then say this policy is a game changer for many of our vulnerable families?
Come again with your question?
Would we say it's a game changer?
Exactly, Penop. It's a game changer because you agree with me. I think we have a lot of children on the streets. Not only that, we mentioned that it was a breeding ground for criminals. It was actually giving a lot of work to the Zambia police. But this time around, I think the police service is able to relax a bit on such area, because a lot of junkies, those potential junkies, they have been trained to be school-going children. Imagine if there was no free education policy, what would our streets be now? They would have been saturated with a lot of junkies, a lot of criminals. But the government has come up with a good idea, and to echo again what Dr. Kasenge said, because a policy is something that should be consistent. A policy should be consistent. I like the fact that he mentioned the issue to do with the food implementation program. That is emanating from the free education policy, because the government wants to ensure that there's consistency in as far as free education is concerned. So a pupil who is fed is a confident pupil, because you are aware, you are learning, but at the end of it all, you are fed again. So the pupil will have the mindset for concentration in class, and so that will give that pupil, a girl child, an opportunity to concentrate and learn. So it is actually helping out in so many ways.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meleki. Dr. Kasenge, I'll come to you. Government has reaffirmed its commitment to equitable access to education, announcing that the policy will soon be enshrined in law. And I want to quote the president, as he stated when he made this announcement in 2025 October. The president said, we will ensure the free education policy we will enshrine the free education policy into law so that it becomes a legal obligation. Thank you so much, Mr. Meleki. As we come to the end of the program, I'll ask you to give us your last word on the free education policy.
Yes, thank you so much, Benno. My last words would be the policy, free education policy, is a very good policy that has been undertaken by the government. And this, of course, will resonate into producing a lot of educated children, because, like you said, this has curtailed a lot more, especially to the parents, because they never had money to take their children, and so now they are able to save a little bit of substantial amount of money, which they can divert into other issues, and so that is part of sustaining the livelihood of the people. So in a nutshell, I would say that the free education policy is a very good policy, and it should be very consistent, the way we are also seeing the other issues like the food implementation program. That is another very good stance that the government is trying to do. So it's a way to go.
Thank you so much. Well, our dear viewers, thank you so much for having joined us on The Lens from the Ndola studio. I have been your host, Penelope Chansa. We were looking at the impact of the free education policy on our country. And in the studio to help me look at that subject, I had two lecturers from the National Institute of Public Administration, Mr. Melvin Meleki, as well as Dr. Clement Kasenge. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having come to the program.
Thank you so much.